the winter of 986 CE, 236 Norse women swallowed liquid mercury to avoid the horror awaiting captured wives of fallen warriors. Excavators discovered their remains arranged in careful lines. Mercury traces stained their dental enamel, their fingers still gripping ceramic containers. Some embraced each other in death. Mothers beside daughters, siblings together, the youngest merely 15 years old. These weren't servants or thralls. The grave goods surrounding them, silver bracelets, polished amber, bronze clasps, identified them as household leaders. Women who'd worn authorities' keys on their belts, who'd supervised estates during their husbands' raiding expeditions. Now those husbands lay dead across English battlefields. The formidable Scandinavian force that had terrorized Britain for generations was finally destroyed. And these women understood what followed. They'd witnessed it firsthand. When Norse warriors returned with Saxon captives, when Irish girls were dragged from longships in irons, when Frankish noblewomen stood exposed at auction platforms, the mercury acted quickly. Metallic bitterness coating their mouths, violent seizures, foaming. Their final vision, the timber ceiling of the hall where they'd elected to perish together rather than endure what they'd forced upon countless others. So here's what haunts researchers. These women at Repton chose mercury death. Mercury among the most excruciating methods of dying. Spasms so intense they'd fracture vertebrae. Bloody foam erupting from lips. Consciousness disintegrating as the element corroded neural pathways. Yet 236 selected this end because whatever existed beyond those hall doors terrified them more. That's an auctioneer announcing values in ancient Scandinavian. 20 silver for the youngest. His voice rebounds through wooden structures at Dublin's trading center. 793 CE, the beginning year. The Vikings had perfected their operation, 3 pricing tiers. 20 silver coins for virgin girls below 16, 15 for fertile women, 10 for anyone past 30. Woodquay, that's the excavation site. The infrastructure wasn't improvised purpose-designed storage buildings, stone bases, drainage carved into bedrock, iron rings mounted to surfaces at calculated spacing. This wasn't opportunistic raiding. This was systematic commerce. The restraints reveal their own narrative. The largest ones, standard iron construction. But the medium restraints were specially crafted narrower bands, reduced weight, proportioned for female wrists. Then came the smallest ones, 4 inches around. The research team kept verifying measurements, kept confirming calculations, but the data remained unchanged. These restraints were manufactured for children, for wrists matching a modern 7-year-old's. King Ethel's revenue documents from 812 CE taxed the human trade, legitimized it officially. 2 silver pieces per individual sold through English harbors. Revenue officers stamping paperwork while girls shuffled past in chains. The containment structures extended 300 feet along the Liffey. Separate zones. Virgins isolated, their market value demanded it. Pregnant captives in another sector, near birthing attendants. The children were positioned where mothers could observe but never touch them. Strategic leverage. They employed veterinarians. Norse documents call them stock inspectors. They examined teeth structure, detected pregnancies, screened for illness, rejected the diseased ones. Those were discarded in the river. Dublin wasn't exceptional. Hedeby, Burka, Gotland. Identical infrastructure appears everywhere. From Iceland to the Black Sea, one vast apparatus converting women into silver currency. But the warehouses weren't the most disturbing discovery. The personal belongings scattered in soil beneath the holding chambers. A child's carved doll. A bone comb with red strands still woven through its teeth. A small bronze crucifix, its chain severed. The Woodquay excavations exposed scratches covering walls in Ogham script, in Latin, in runic alphabet. Names, prayers, desperate messages. Brigid was here. Christ show mercy. Remember Ashling? Some carved using fingernails until they bled. Then they discovered the bones, infant skeletal remains. Hundreds accumulated in specialized collection chambers because newborns held no market worth. Couldn't survive ocean crossings. The Dublin market operated for 3 centuries. 20,000 women and children annually based on tax documentation. 6 million human beings. That's not raiding. That's an economic system. What archaeologists discovered in the drainage channels would transform everything. The channels weren't merely for waste disposal. Stone cut at precise angles, water channeled in controlled currents. 820 CE, the year Vikings transformed slavery into science. Those channels connected everything. Auction platforms to warehouses, warehouses to docks, docks to vessels. One comprehensive network designed to transport human cargo without losing merchandise. The channels divided. Main arteries for general waste. But narrower channels, barely 8 inches wide, led elsewhere. They terminated at collection pools. Limestone basins carved from individual blocks. The answer existed in the sediment. Arsenic compounds, mercury residue, lead deposits. They weren't filtering waste. They were filtering poison. The warehouses above held 200-person capacity. 3 square feet per person. Sufficient to sit, insufficient to recline. Airflow calculated to maintain life but induce weakness. But Dublin was merely the beginning. 830 CE York. The archaeologists there uncovered something making Dublin's warehouses appear humane. York Coppergate. 64 cells. Each one 6 feet by 4 feet. Stone barriers between them. No windows. Drainage channels connecting every chamber. This wasn't a prison. The construction was too specific. Too specialized. The wear patterns on stone told their own narrative. Grooves worn smooth from human bodies. From identical repetitive movements, year after year after year. Cell 23 changed everything. Dr. Sarah Whitfield entered first. She's documenting wall scratches when she notices them. Tiny finger bones. Infant finger bones embedded in the mortar between stones. 876 CE, the year the York facility commenced operations. This wasn't about storage anymore. The bone evidence revealed the truth. Pelvic scarring, calcium depletion. These women had delivered children multiple times in these cells. The layout made sense now. 64 cells arranged in a square. Central courtyard with drainage. The answer existed in the artifacts. Feeding tubes. Restraint hardware designed for pregnant women. Midwifery tools. This was a breeding facility, 40 years. From 876 to 916, 40 years of forced pregnancies. 40 years of stolen infants. 40 years of women dying in 6x4 stone cells. The DNA evidence destroyed every comfortable myth. 30% showed Norse genetics. The Vikings were breeding their own women too. The position of the bodies weren't scattered. Weren't random. These women had died in rows. Organized. Simultaneous. Mass execution. The toxicology revealed something else. These women had been poisoned, mercury in their bones. Just like Repton. They'd chosen the identical escape. Church records revealed the unthinkable. 900 CE, right there in Latin, received 40 silver pieces for rental of adjacent properties for use by Norse merchants. The church owned the neighboring buildings. The church collected rent. The church knew the breeding program had quotas. 12 infants per cell per year. That's 768 babies annually. Transport records show ships departed monthly. Cargo manifests list young stock. Destination: Iceland, Norway, wherever Norse families required slaves raised from birth. Dr. Whitfield found personal items hidden in wall crevices. A bone needle. Thread made from human hair. Tiny garments. The women had been sewing baby clothes in darkness for infants they'd never see again. Cell 41 held one final revelation. Scratched into the stone in Latin. Alf Gifu. 23 winters. 6 sons taken. My soul dies with each. Below it, in different handwriting, she stopped eating. Day 40. We send her to Valhalla, my soul. If this historical investigation moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more untold stories from the past that deserve to be remembered.